Hey guys, it is Chris Niccolls here from PetaPixel, and I'm coming to you from sunny San Jose. We found a beautiful park to shoot in, but it's got a jackhammer. We're going to take it because the park is gorgeous. And we are here because Samsung is launching the latest S25 Ultra. We got hands-on time with it, and we want to talk about the things that we think are really important for video or photo creator. So before we get to our favorite things about the new S25 Ultra, have you checked out PetaPixel.com and all of its fantastic articles? Well, if you enjoy them, there's a way to enjoy them ad-free. Get a PetaPixel membership, $3 a month or $30 a year, and you can enjoy it with no ads at all. And it gets even better. You're also going to get 25% off the PetaPixel merch store at store.petapixel.com. So fantastic benefits. We got a lot more bonuses coming up. You should definitely check it out. So there has been some refinement done to the new Samsung 25 Ultra. So this is a little bit thinner and a little bit lighter than before, down to 218 grams, about 15% thinner than the S24 Ultra. And we actually do get the Gorilla Glass 2 now, which I like. I can attest to its strength on the iPhone. It is definitely more scratch resistant. Same battery that we had before, but with the new processing engine being a little bit more power efficient, we should get a little bit of extended battery life over the original S24 Ultra. So there is a new processor I've just mentioned. It's a new Snapdragon 8 Elite, and this should give us some benefits, especially with just speed of the phone and applications overall. Hardware is largely unchanged, although there is a new camera. I'm going to talk about that in just a bit. But otherwise, like most of the other modern smartphones, most of the changes are going to be software-based. And we do have a full review coming out, so you definitely want to pay attention to that. We're really going to get into whether that makes a difference or not. But let me get into the first feature that I found really interesting about this new phone. So, you know, Jordan and I flew out of Canada to come down here to California. You assume that we would escape the Canada geese, but I guess they're everywhere, so there's no getting away from them. Cameras is the first thing I want to talk about on the S25 Ultra. We have largely the same hardware that we had before. We have the same selfie camera. We got the same 50 megapixel 5x telephoto camera. I was actually kind of hoping Samsung would go back to the 10x optical because that kind of set them apart, but that's not going to happen. The same up-resing 12 megapixel 3x camera, the same 200 megapixel main camera. And again, remember that like the telephoto, the main camera, these are quad Bayer sensors. Don't expect you're going to get a full 50 megapixels or 200 megapixels of resolution out of these things. What has changed is just the ultra wide. So last year we had a 12 megapixel BSI ultra wide camera, but now we get a 50 megapixel quad Bayer camera setup. Definitely going to want to test that out in the full review, really see, you know, is there a larger sensor? Are we getting more light? I definitely want to check that, but it does definitely have a better macro capability than it did before. All right, the next big thing that actually is quite exciting, to be fair, is the AI-based editing tools for photography. So when we played with the S24, what we found was, of course, a huge push for these AI tools, you know, generative fill, moving a subject around the frame, but a lot of it had to go up to the cloud to be done. It was a very slow process. It was kind of inconvenient to implement. And so one of the biggest changes now on the S25 Ultra is you can do things like generative editing, moving subjects around, filling in areas you've erased, all on device. You don't need cloud support. And it's actually way faster than before. And I do think that this is a really important update because, you know, before with the cloud-based, you'd have to push a button to go into the cloud, wait for it to connect, do your changes. You waited a long time, and honestly, the results were really disappointing. In some cases, kind of horrific. So I definitely also want to test and see, is the AI tool actually going to be more useful, more realistic than what we had before? Okay, so just so you guys have context, I'm standing in a big pile of Canada Goose right now. Again, thank you to the miracle of migration for making that possible. And I'm standing in this poop so that I can talk about the next thing, AI tools on the S25 Ultra. So one thing that has returns is a sketch to image. This is where I can draw something with my finger or with the stylus, and then it will AI generate an image based off of what I sketched, and based on how good your drawing skills are, it does a pretty good job. We did see that before in the previous iteration, but a new tool is now the Samsung Portrait Studio. So this is where you take a picture of a person, and then it looks at your face, analyzes it, and you can apply some effects like a watercolor image. Oh, it doesn't look like me at all. Doesn't look like me at all. That's a different guy. Interesting. A cartoon image.
It did.
Or a pencil sketch.
Again.
It still likes this guy's face. Interesting. And, you know, this is kind of funny. So for some people actually did a beautiful job, you know, really captured their semblance. Jordan actually did a pretty good job. But when Jaron and I both tried it, it was kind of strange. The results didn't look like us anymore, and it seems to take 15 years away from you and 15 pounds off, which I guess is what most people want. But I also want to recognize myself in that. So your results may vary. We might just be really ethnically ambiguous. I don't know. I do also want to mention that where generative editing does not require cloud support or connection to the internet, things like the Sketch to Image or this Portrait Studio app do require cloud access. But again, I was very impressed by how seamless it was to integrate and how quick it was to use. I really wasn't waiting more than a few seconds, and that's a marked improvement over the older S24s. So this next feature, with Jordan being Jordan, he considers this the most important breakthrough on this phone. And honestly, I don't disagree. I think this is really important as well. So the S25s now have log recording in video. This works with all of their record modes and frame rates as long as you're shooting 10-bit H.265. And I know you might say, oh, you can do like log through Android, through separate apps. But when you have an integrated log file from the actual manufacturer, it tends to give you better results. We certainly saw this with Apple, and it's a very welcome improvement to see now with the Samsung. And the last thing that we're really excited to see is also a video feature. Samsung now has a better night video mode, which they call nightography. So this is doing some interesting stuff. I mean, first off, it can detect which subjects are moving, which subjects are still, and it can isolate them for how it's going to edit them for low light performance. This is an automatic feature. It just kicks in when it feels that it needs to based on the levels of light. And it's going to do very advanced AI-based noise reduction real time in the video. Again, you don't need this to go into the cloud or anything. It does it real time while you're recording. But it should give us better improvements for low light, so we're definitely going to test that as well. All right, guys, so those are the features that initially interest and excite us about the S25 Ultra, but we are now going to do a review on this phone for photographers and videographers. That's why we're here in California, so do definitely stay tuned to watch that. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate that, but we are going to test this phone out further. And so we are going to try to bust out that review as fast as we can, but definitely leave your comments below, any questions you have, because we will absolutely take those into account for our review as well. We're going to be talking about the new S25 on the podcast. You can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. Just search for PetaPixel Podcast, or you can watch on this exact same channel. Full review coming. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon with that one.